Imagine losing everything you built, your reputation shattered, your company on the verge of collapse. And then, in that darkest moment, you make a decision so crazy, so audacious, that everyone thinks you've lost your mind. But what if that insane decision becomes the blueprint for changing the entire world? This is the story of Netflix. And if you're someone who's ever felt like giving up, this story will change you. Welcome to LiterateLens, where we dive deep into books that transform how you see the world. Let me take you back to the year 2000. Reed Hastings is standing in a boardroom, sweating, not because it's hot, but because he's about to pitch the dumbest idea anyone has ever heard. He wants to sell his company Netflix to Blockbuster for $50 million. Blockbuster is the king. They have thousands of stores. Everyone knows their blue and yellow logo. Netflix? It's just this weird little DVD by mail service that's bleeding money. Reed walks into that meeting with hope, maybe even desperation. He presents his vision. And you know what Blockbuster's CEO does? He laughs. Literally laughs in Reed's face and shows him the door. That rejection could have destroyed Netflix. It should have been the end. But instead, it became the beginning of one of the most remarkable comebacks in business history. Here's what the book reveals that most people don't understand about Netflix's success. It wasn't about technology. It wasn't about having more money or better connections. It was about something far more human, far more powerful. It was about creating a culture where people were trusted to be extraordinary. You see, Reed Hastings had experienced the pain of traditional corporate culture in his previous company, Pure Software. He watched as bureaucracy strangled innovation. He saw talented people reduced to cogs in a machine, waiting for permission to think, to create, to dream. When he started Netflix, he made a promise to himself. Never again. He would build something different, something radical. Most companies operate on fear. They create rule after rule because they don't trust their people. An employee makes one mistake, so they create a policy that punishes everyone forever. Someone abuses the vacation system, so they implement strict tracking. Someone overspends, so they require approvals for every purchase. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And what happens? The creative people, the brilliant minds, the ones who could actually change everything, they leave. They go somewhere they can breathe. Reed saw this pattern and said no. At Netflix, the rule became simple and terrifying for most CEOs. Hire only extraordinary people. Pay them extraordinarily well. And then, here's the crazy part. Trust them completely. Imagine showing up to work where there's no vacation policy. Take as much time as you need. No one's counting. No expense approval process. If you think the company needs it, buy it. Use your judgment. No performance reviews with forced rankings that pit people against each other. Just honest conversations about whether you're still the right person for the role. Sounds like chaos, right? Like it would never work? That's what everyone said. But here's the truth. The book unveils. When you hire adults and treat them like adults, they act like adults. When you give people freedom, they don't abuse it. They rise to it. They become more responsible than they ever were under surveillance and rules. But freedom isn't free. Netflix discovered something profound. You can have freedom, but only if you're willing to face brutal honesty. They created what they called radical candor. If someone isn't performing, you tell them. Not in a performance review 6 months later. Now, today. With kindness, but with absolute clarity. If someone's brilliant at their job but creating a toxic environment, they're out. No matter how talented, because the culture matters more than any individual. This terrified people at first. But then, something magical happened. When you remove the politics, when you remove the fake niceness that covers up real problems, people start to trust each other. They start to perform at levels they never thought possible. The book shares a moment that captures this perfectly. Netflix was transitioning from DVDs to streaming, and they made a catastrophic mistake. They tried to split the company into 2 separate services with 2 separate charges. Customers revolted. The stock crashed. Reed had to go on television and apologize. Millions of subscribers left. It was a disaster. But here's what's remarkable. Instead of pointing fingers, instead of firing people to save face, the leadership team sat down and asked one question. What did we learn? They dissected every decision. They faced their arrogance, their assumptions, their failure to listen to customers. And they emerged stronger, wiser, more committed to their principles. That's the heartbeat of Netflix's story. It's not about being perfect. It's about being honest enough to face your imperfections and bold enough to keep evolving. When everyone said streaming would never work, They bet everything on it. When everyone said original content was too risky, they created House of Cards and changed television forever. When everyone said you couldn't compete with Hollywood, they became Hollywood. Each step was terrifying. Each decision carried the risk of complete failure. But they kept asking themselves, what does the future demand? And how do we become that future? The book makes you realize something uncomfortable. Most of us are living in our own personal blockbuster moment. We're clinging to what worked yesterday, terrified to let go, even though we can see the world changing around us. We're waiting for permission to be great instead of giving ourselves that permission. We're following rules that don't make sense anymore because it feels safer than trusting ourselves. Netflix's story is a mirror. It shows us what's possible when we stop playing defense and start playing offense with our lives. Reed Hastings didn't set out to build a streaming empire. He set out to create a place where talented people could do the best work of their lives. The empire was just a side effect. That's the lesson that will stay with you long after you finish this video. Culture isn't what you say. It's what you do when no one's watching. It's whether you choose comfort or growth. It's whether you treat people like children who need to be controlled or like champions who need to be unleashed. So here's my challenge to you. What's your blockbuster moment? Where in your life are you being laughed at, rejected, told your idea is too crazy? Maybe that's not the end of your story. Maybe that's just the beginning. If this video hit you differently, if you felt something shift inside, then you need to subscribe to LiterateLens. Because every week we break down books that don't just inform you, they transform you. Books that make you see yourself and the world with new eyes. Hit that subscribe button because your next breakthrough might be hiding in the pages of a book you haven't read yet. And if you got value from this, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's build a community of people who choose growth over comfort, who choose courage over fear. I'll see you in the next one. Keep reading, keep growing, keep learning.